What's going on, YouTube? Culturedog Sam Hatch back here with another, well, this time it's a film review proper. I'm just going to do something impromptu and quick. As I mentioned before in my Laserdisc video, I'm going to try and keep things a little faster in terms of production movement because I'm just tired of things sitting in my editing bay. So I'm going to leave in a lot of stuff that I normally would edit out. So, no nose picking or, anything like that, or, random toots or... guys getting shot next door and bleeding out in the street screaming. I'll leave all that stuff in. We'll see how it goes. But one of the things I wanted to talk about briefly was I went out and caught the new Halloween film on Thursday night this past week, and it's something I've been waiting for and looking forward to. Maybe having a few reservations here. But David Gordon Green, interesting choice to direct the film, and having Danny McBride on the writing end, but hearing those two guys in a lot of interviews really sold me on the idea that they are fans of the Halloween film, especially the original John Carpenter film, and just fans of horror films in general. And despite the fact that David Gordon Green's done things like Pineapple Express, and Danny McBride's known for things like Eastbound and Down, it doesn't mean that they've got some, that they don't have some love for, classic horror in their guts. So that really didn't bother me too much, and I was kind of excited about the tactic that I heard they were taking, in which they were, avoiding the canon, so to speak, of the Halloween series. And I've been rewatching them all for part of the Halloween, 31 films in 31 days challenge. I'm up to, I think I just watched the 5th one, and I'm watching like multiple cuts of everything too, because I watched the TV cut of Halloween 2 and the theatrical. But yeah, I was excited about the fact that they were kind of pushing a lot of that to the curb, because unfortunately a lot of the sequels undo great things about the films that come before. Like, Part 5 undid a lot of great moments from the 4th film. And Halloween 2, as much as people like it, it does... unfortunately, especially because of the whole inclusion of Laurie Strode and Michael Myers being related, it just like urinates all over some of the great thematic elements of the first film, and I really just can't hang with that. So I'm pretty happy that these filmmakers decided to kick that to the curb. I know they kind of rankled some fans, but I hate. I'll go out and say that I hate the cheap way out storytelling technique of substituting plot with people being related, and having an expectation that because characters that we didn't know were related are related, that somehow equals depth. It's almost as much as that I hate twists that don't have any setup. Like twists that come out of nowhere that no one could ever know or anticipate because there was no setup for it. It's the same kind of thing. Like, I just hate, well, what if these characters are related? Well, it doesn't really change anything or make it any deeper. And the fact that gave motive to Michael Myers, that's the worst. It's just the worst. It just ruins everything about the first film, about how he's like a character that is no character. He's an absence of character. He has no motivation other than to kill people. He doesn't care about, which people are which or something. They may remind him of his sister that he killed when he was a youth, but the fact that there's this meaning for it, that everybody else is now safe because he's out to kill his sister Laurie. No, man. Burn that to the ground. And I absolutely agree with John Carpenter that was a bad idea, and I know he was under duress and forced to write the script basically for Halloween 2, and I definitely agree with Tommy Lee Wallace for stepping away from that project, and John Carpenter for not getting too involved in it. That said, I was excited at the fact that they were just going to stick with the original, because that's where it's at. Huge fan of the 1978 original, so it was cool. It was interesting having Laurie come back in H2O, but that it didn't really hold up over time. It just feels more like a Scream film now than it does a Halloween film. So it was cool too that they kind of kicked that to the curb and they reinvented their character, and they've turned her into a survivalist in a sense in this film. Not too far afield from Sarah Connor in Terminator 2. She's, become so paranoid after the events of the first film and being attacked by Michael Myers that she's resorted to this survivalist lifestyle, and she's built this compound for herself out in the middle of nowhere. And somewhere along the line, she had a daughter who is now grown up, played by Judy Greer, who now has her daughter herself. And Judy Greer's character has kind of rejected Laurie Strode's values and teachings, and has gone back to embrace suburban living. And that's the one thing Laurie doesn't have anymore. And it's cool. It kind of makes a neat connection to the end of John Carpenter's original, where she's crying and asking, why me? And in that film you're thinking, she's crying because of the trauma of what she's been through. But in the context of these films together now, it almost reminds me of a film called The Reflecting Skin, where the main character just has this powerful primal scream when his innocence dies. And there's that feeling that Laurie is crying because she is dead now. Or the person she was in the beginning of the film can be no more. She is dead. That innocent babysitter character will never be seen again. So it's really powerful stuff. So the film starts with a bunch of douchey journalists, in particular podcasters. I love that stuff, that they were kind of taking a little jab at Sword and Scale and Serial and all those podcasts that kind of rake through the coals of past traumas, and I love that the main journalist character is pretty much in love with hearing himself speak, and he is always able to grab his Zoom recorder and just have this verbal diarrhea, trying to create this import out of the trauma that happened to Laurie and what happened to her friends back in 1978. They go visit Michael Myers in an asylum in the beginning of the film, and that's a just harrowing scene, really, really intense. You get to see Michael Myers again being reborn in a sense of this film, because he's been stripped of his visage, his mask, and his coveralls, and he's just a guy in a yard. You don't see his face, thankfully, because you don't want to. He's like Judge Dredd. We just don't want to see his face. But I love the concept. There's a new version of Dr. Loomis, this Dr. Sartain, who is one of Loomis's proteges and is equally fascinated with Michael's mental state and what makes him tick. And he, warns these characters early on that, he's aware of them. He can speak, but he won't speak. And there's just this whole feeling of dissatisfaction that he will not express himself and explain why he does what he does, because there is no why. Which again gets spat in their face when they try and go visit Laurie Strode, who's this super recluse now, or kind of like Sydney in the later Scream films. She's kind of torn herself away from society, and she does reluctantly agree to speak with these people and let them know that there is no meaning to be gleaned from what happened to her and her traumas. And she does state that she hopes Michael Myers escapes, and so that she can have a chance at creating some closure for herself. So the film then shifts gears, shows her estranged family. Her granddaughter is keen on getting into contact with her crazy grandma, but Judy Greer, as the mom in the middle, is not so keen on connecting those old severed ties. So there's a lot of family tension there. And then you see all the extended friends. There's some great callbacks. Definitely keep an ear open for character names, because there's going to be some new characters that are related to old characters from the original Carpenter film, and there's a few other cool Easter eggs along the way. There's a musical Easter egg that really put a smile on my face. And then, Michael Myers apparently is going to be transferred, which, if you've seen Halloween 4, was a bad idea. And, it is convenient that this transfer is to happen very close to Halloween night, but the script actually plays it rather well, so you don't question it too much. And everything is shot. It's very, very earthy tones in this film, but it's just shot gorgeously. It's in 2.35:1, which is a necessity. I mean, 4 is a serviceable film, and 5, those two, oh man, the fact that they shot it on 1.85:1 is almost like get out of the Halloween series, man. If you're not coming in scope, you're not a Halloween film. You're a TV show. Sorry. So I appreciated that this had a gorgeous widescreen, 2.35 to 1 image, and so much of it is just lit with emergency lights, but just deep, deep blues and reds. It's just beautiful to look at, and the framing was excellent, and I loved how it had some clever little plays with the staging and framing of moments from the first film where you're like, oh, it's that, but oh, there's a little bit of a twist to it, or some element is reinvented. And I loved how it brought back the concept of, fear being, accepted and kind of brushed under the rug on Halloween night. This concept that Michael Myers could be out there, a dude in coveralls with a bloody knife could easily walk the streets openly on Halloween night and stalk people, and nobody would really bat an eyelash because, it's just all costume play and fun and games. So yeah, he gets on the loose, and there's some pretty interesting stuff along the way back to Haddonfield to, enact his revenge on whoever gets in his way. And I loved some of the kind of playful staging and how they worked out. Like the first film, of course, has the classic Steadicam scene. And this film has a great kind of like almost inverse of that, where Michael Myers is looking in the window at a potential victim, and then the camera locks off. Instead of pulling a Steadicam move and following him, the camera just never moves. But it's got such a wide vision, and the blocking of the scenes and the way the house is built gives us like this kind of like godly view of everything that's going on. And then as the subject sees something, it comes closer to the window. That's when Michael walks around the side of the house, and then you see him appear in the depths of the house in the back. It's just awesome, and it's all done with the camera just boom, doing nothing. Really amazing stuff. There's a great like babysitting moment with a very smart, aware kid. It's fun. There are some funny moments in there, especially with Danny McBride working on the script. And when there's two characters bickering, you can really hear Danny McBride's voice in the writing. There's a couple cops that are bickering at one point, and thankfully they don't have goofy clown music over them like they did in Halloween 5. And then there's the bit with the babysitter and the young kid she's babysitting. And you can hear him, like if you thought about like what would Danny McBride say, speaking of that, you can hear his cadence and that. And it's not really a detriment. It didn't feel false coming out of the mouths of these characters. It's just that, I guess I've seen enough of his work that I know his kind of vocal patterns. So there was some good, funny moments in there as well. Decent amount of tension, a little bit of gore. There was some really nasty, like reveals of what happened to some characters that he tangled with. And I like the fact that it has a story after, maybe like halfway through the second act. A lot of the films, especially the sequels, just kind of get to a point where it's just characters moving from point A to point B to point C, and you get Dr. Loomis running to point D foolishly, so it's, I know he's gonna be at the grocery store, and then like he leaves and Michael's exactly where he left, and then he's like, comes back an hour later, he wasn't in the grocery store at all. Yeah, we know. He was here with us. You should have stayed here, knucklehead. So it's usually a lot of that. This film gets to that point and we're like, all right, here's where it could grow tiresome. And then it doesn't grow tiresome, which is very, very refreshing. It pulls a couple twists, and it has a pretty creative finale that I wasn't expecting. It's usually by like the 80-minute point. That's when someone's just running around the woods and you're getting tired about the whole thing, and you're just like, all right, let's see how this wraps up so I can go home. But no, it actually stayed intense and gripping. It does move faster than the original. It's not as much of a slow burn. Again, that does serve the film because we know what's going on. We know the characters. We know what's at stake. So you might as well get a move on. But yeah, it was even the opening credits. It was interesting to note just how much faster it moved than the slow kind of pan or slow zoom in on the pumpkin in the original. So but it's not too peppy. It's not crazy quick cuts or anything like that, which I definitely appreciated. The score was amazing. John Carpenter revisiting a lot of the themes. But this time he's got his band, son Cody Carpenter and Daniel Davies, backing him up. And there's one cue in particular has these kind of like intense just stabs of sonic danger coming at you. And it really brought a level of intensity to the scenes that accompanied. And it was interesting, like the whole concept of Laurie out for a bit of revenge, and the fact that they are not brother and sister. When Michael does escape, he's not coming for her, really. He's coming to Haddonfield to stalk and play and murder everybody that gets in his path. So she has to actively inject herself into the situation. And it's fun, like there's a couple scenes with her bombing around town in her truck, or her SUV, and you're thinking, oh wow, finally somebody actually capable is on the hunt for Michael. Whereas usually in the movies it's a bunch of people that are like foolishly, self-confident that they can save the day and they know where he's going to be hiding and stuff. So finally somebody, Dr. Loomis was connected with him in a certain way, and he was on the hunt for him, but he was never really that good at it. But there was a couple of points where she's, terrassing around, and I'm like, oh wow, man, she might actually be able to find this dude and take care of business. I also like the fact that she was tough. She had gone mercenary. She's a militaristic, and that she's taken a hit with her family because of it. But there is still a sense of being scared. Like, she can be prepared for this. While Michael Myers is still a very, very terrifying character / shape, and if you're not on your A game, he's going to kill you. So it doesn't matter how much training she has. So you could sense Jamie Lee Curtis is really playing Laurie as someone who's a lot tougher and a lot more prepared, but is still frightened about what's going on, which of course helps because we the audience are frightened. It reminds me of the end of Alien, where Ripley's going around the Nostromo and trying to get a lot accomplished and stay alive in the process, and then is just terrified throughout. So yeah, really intense stuff. Maybe not the scariest, but it had its moments. It definitely had some scary moments. Had some eerie stuff. The DP was just, the cinematography was amazing, and I'm gonna get the score on probably CD and vinyl. It's really, really great stuff. I'm trying to think of like where I would place it in the listing of all the sequels and everything like that, but it's probably a little bit too soon to make a final call on that. But I loved it. I'm looking forward to going and see it again. It was, and it's stuck with me after seeing it. It kind of settled in, and I just kind of loved the wrap up of it and the vibe that leaves you with as the lights go up and moves out. So I'm glad it's making a ton of dough. It's nice seeing a quality Halloween film on cinema screens. And that's about it. Just want to throw down some thoughts on it, and hopefully you guys dug the flick. It's one of those things. There's so much going on in the quote-unquote canon of Halloween that like it's almost impossible to please everybody nowadays. Because some of the things that I hate about the series, people love about the series. So yeah, there's no pleasing everyone. But that said, this is a pretty competent flick, and I love the fact that it was relatively low budget, but they made it look great, and the actors pulled it off. It's nice having quality characters. That's one of the things that made a film like Halloween 4 more enjoyable and definitely better in my estimation than like Halloween 5, is because the characters were so good and interesting. So yeah, this one pulls it off too. No complaints. I'm definitely looking forward to going to check it out again, and I'll be owning it on Blu-ray 4K and all that sort of jazz. But in the meantime, I'll go hit it up in theaters again, maybe tomorrow. We'll see. But thanks for hanging out. I'll talk to you guys later. Cheers!